Or they left them sitting there because they didn't show up, they had to go pick them up. So my sister living in the South Towns and me in the North Towns, what would we do? I gotta work. I mean, what do you do? I lose sleep almost weekly thinking about this. It's not the most pleasant conversation in the world to have with your parents about when they die. That's not pleasant at all, but it's something that has to be done. My dad's a Marine and he's a tough dude. My brother's the toughest kid I've ever met in my life. But I gotta tell you, those conversations are difficult, but it's something that we have to do. We have to plan. And I worry about this every day. Where's he gonna live? Because he can come live with me, that's okay. But the problem is, I sometimes leave for work at 6:30 in the morning. So then a person would have to come to my house, sit in my house, and watch my brother. And the way it's written right now, if my brother lives with me, I'm his 24-hour care guardian, his full-time guardian. So if a person doesn't show, because we got snow, they got sick, I'm responsible. So then what? I don't go into work. I can't expect work to follow my schedule. So that's the problem. And that's why we need everyone to keep advocating. We need you to understand and open your hearts. Become the big brother and big sisters that I am. And think about that and plan. I would be remiss if I didn't stand up here and thank Senator Ort. He actually sat down and listened to my parents and I and Jimmy and our concerns. Believe me, my dad can talk for over an hour and a half. And he listened and he helped. And that's what we're asking, just help. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Debbie Cordone. Debbie is parent of James. James is 11 years old and lives at home with Debbie. Please welcome Debbie Cordone.
Just a second here. I'm going to gear up like I do at home to protect myself or my son. At home, obviously, I have to work a lot faster. I see many faces in this room, friends who live this way or have lived this way. And let me tell you, it is no way to live. Your first priority is protecting your child. But in order to protect your child, you have to protect yourself, because if you go down, he's going to hurt himself. My husband and I adopted our son James. My name is Debbie Cordone, by the way, I'm sorry. Our son James, when he was 18 months old. I'm sorry. We adopted our son James when he was 18 months old. We took him from a very sad home life. He suffered much sadness in his first 18 months of life. James is going to be 11 this month. He's got severe autism, diagnosed presently with a mental illness that they can only diagnose as mood disorder at this time because of his lack of speech. I'm dressed this way so that you can see how we and many other families live in our homes on a daily basis. The hat so my hair doesn't get ripped out, my jeans to protect my legs from scratches, bites, and diggings, arm guards and gloves for protection against bites, digs, scratches. I have an emergency call button that goes right to my sister and or 911. And I carry a bottle of Haldol in my pocket for sedation. This is to block my son, who becomes aggressive with us, and his support staff in the home. They also dress this way. Believe me, you couldn't pay me enough to come in my house and work. So this blocks him. When we try to stop him from hurting himself, he becomes aggressive towards us. And we do the best we can. Being the parent of a disabled child is very stressful. But the most stress comes from fighting for therapies, schools, services, doctors, and the worst of all, the system in New York State. 2 years ago, James became more self-injurious and for the first time aggressive towards others. Before that, he was completely manageable and much smaller. So as things spiraled out of control, medication changes made things worse, and medication changes, as many of you know in the home, is extremely dangerous. There is not one place in New York State that can help a child like my son. Not one place. There are 9 places in this entire country with 15 beds. That's an average of 135 beds in the entire country for this population. The wait list is 6 months to 2 years. Meanwhile, you are living in crisis while your son is locked up at CPAP or Children's, just to keep him safe. Also, trying to get my son into Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore was a fight. I had to videotape, I had to keep logs, I had to send pictures, I had to keep pounding. And then I got that call that the bed was ready. And then what happens? Oh, Blue Cross decides, hey, we decided you don't have that coverage after all. Well, I had it yesterday, now you explain to me why I don't today. I knew darn well why, because they found out what it cost for my son to go to Kennedy Krieger. I fight for James all the time. Some of you I know are familiar. We got that bed, but while we waited at Kennedy Krieger, for the bed at Kennedy Krieger, James was admitted to Children's twice for safety. They could do nothing for him but sedate him. There are no hospitals in the area that understand autism and severe behaviors due to the lack of training, a very simple solution. There can very easily be hospitals or small inpatient units where doctors can safely make medication adjustments in a clinical setting with trained staff. So easy. No one wants our kids. Shortly before discharge from Kennedy Krieger, there was another battle for an appropriate school placement. You see, because when I left the state, my son lost his school placement. But I had to help him. I battled the school districts, ultimately getting my son his spotted autism services back, and for that we are extremely grateful. Then coming home from Kennedy Krieger, we opted to bring our son home, not into a group home, as every parent wants their child to live at home as long as possible. We were allotted through the state 36 hours of in-home behavior support. That seemed like an enormous amount to me. It turned out it wasn't enough, and we can't even fill 36 hours a week because these poor people who are so extremely dedicated are so underpaid. The state now tells us we can have 2 staff 24/7 while my son is home. We can't fill 1 staff for 36 hours, so we know that's never going to happen. Mine and my husband's bodies are breaking down. Dad's in remission from lymphoma. He had 2 recent surgeries and another one needed. I've had 3 major back surgeries, require another back surgery, and require both knees operated on. I can't, because who's gonna protect my son? No, I have to protect my son. I have to be on this floor restraining him with 2, sometimes 3 other trained adults. I can't keep my son safe any longer, because if I go down and I don't get up, and it's going to happen, he's gonna hurt himself. Is the state waiting for my child to get seriously injured, or myself? I mean, what does it take? Is it going to take some extreme measure for them to say, okay, we have a placement? There are empty group homes in this area, all over this state, that they have closed down. I feel I've been assaulted by Governor Cuomo. My child is not disposable. I beg you all, please fight for our children. You are our only hope. And I thank you very much for your time, and I pray you take this home with you and remember how I live in my house.
Thanks, Debbie. That was pretty graphic. Thank you. Now Now we are pleased to welcome Aisha King Humphrey, a direct support professional from People Inc., joining us today. As we all know, work done by direct support professionals is critical to the quality of life for so many of our loved ones. Aisha has agreed to join us today to share her thoughts on what it means to be a DSP. Please welcome Aisha Humphrey.
Good morning. My name is Aisha King Humphrey, and I'm not gonna lie, I wrote my speech Thanksgiving weekend after I was contacted by my directors at People Incorporated, and after hearing their stories, I am like blown away, and I'm gonna kind of like skim through what I wrote, but I wanna just give you guys an experience of how it is to work as a direct support professional. I've been employed at People Inc. for the last 7 years. I started at the age of 19. I never experienced this job would have a major impact on my life. I began my career as an Irish specialist at a group home taking care of 4 people in wheelchairs. While working there, I learned countless of skills, such as operating mechanical lifts, that's the Capella lift, the ceiling track, it's one more other one, I'm missing one more, but it's a lot of lifts that we have to learn, and we have a brief training for 2 weeks. So you go to a training, you go to a house, they show you how to do it, and you have to grasp it within, I want to say 2 shifts. So after doing that, I also run medical appointments, which means dealing with various physicians who sometimes don't talk to them. They look at me and I'm like, you can talk to them, they understand what you're saying. You know, I witness a lot of professionals treating my individuals like children when it comes to that. Administering medications, which is very, specific. You are in charge of passing controlled meds. It can be a life or death situation if you do not know how to administer meds correctly. And mealtime protocols are followed correctly. We are given mealtime protocols. We work very close with our speech therapy, and that is very specific to follow the mealtime protocols as well. We have to make sure that food is cut correctly, if liquids are presented, if they're thickened in the correct way. But most importantly is building a relationship with the people, families I serve. I cannot stress that enough. If people do not trust me with their children, I have a son, he's 6, and I couldn't imagine dropping him off at school and not trusting his teacher. So I think it's very important to build a relationship with the families. I am now employed at the Senior Day Hab program. I currently care for seniors at various ages with Alzheimer's and dementia. One of my responsibilities that I take the most pride in is getting them active in the community. I heard what your son was expressing, and he is telling the truth. Getting them involved in the community and outings is so hard because we're constantly short-staffed. I try to do the best I can to get them involved, to make them feel important. We've been involved in the Kenmore Dog Day Festival, which our seniors made little dog popsicles. We passed them out for free as charity to wear awareness for Alzheimer's and dementia, and also our program facility. They also love interacting with children. Every year for Halloween, we pack treat bags for the preschoolers of West Hurdle Elementary. My seniors' faces light up with joy when children approach them and hug them and thank them for their gifts. I witnessed teachers brought to tears with this act of kindness. My team at the Senior Day Hab works very well together. Earlier this year, we was faced with a major crisis when one of our seniors, who was enjoying his lunch, stopped talking suddenly and began to choke. Now this guy was, I want to say he's like 6 feet tall. He began to choke, and I never experienced that before. He turned colors. It took 4 to 5 staff at that moment to stop what we were doing to save his life. The paramedics told us if we would have reacted slower, he would not be here today. My job at People Inc. has many perks, but unfortunately, it has many downsides as well. The past few years, I have watched many coworkers resign due to the issues with current wage. Without an increase in wage, I'm afraid that we will lose more staff for years to come. I know countless of coworkers that has made a major impact on people's lives that we serve, leave suddenly for a higher paying job. I see the changes in many of my seniors' mood when the staff member they cherish and love dearly disappear in an instant. I fear that without an increase in wage, our company will lose more valuable employees. I understand and know firsthand that our job is not an easy one, but we as employees work our hardest to make sure that the people that receive our services have a happy and meaningful life. The most important thing that I've learned from being employed by People Inc., this is not just a job, this is someone's life. I'm very confident that with a wage increase, my future at People Inc. will be brighter. Thank you.
Thanks, Aisha. As a direct service professional, there are a lot of folks here who very much appreciate that you still do that. I have to do my talking for a moment because we are running late. I let the train run late today. I'm sorry. Want to thank all of our panel of speakers. Please give them a very round of applause. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Kathy Watts. Kathy is the parent of Samantha, who is 21 years old and is dependent upon Kathy and her husband Steve for all aspects of their care. Kathy is co-chair of DDAWNY's Family Committee, works as Director of Public Affairs at the Summit Center. So, I'm done, Kathy. Guys, it was great being here again the 6th time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Kathy Watts.
I have to say thank you to everyone who's still here today. This has we've gone over our time frame, and we apologize for that. But the messaging has been so compelling, and we have to really thank all of you speakers who took the time. It is not easy. It is a huge challenge for all of us to be here today, and we recognize that and we appreciate it. It's remarkable to see so many of our familiar faces. Our elected officials who support us every day, and we know that you do, and the fact that you are still here, we want to recognize that, and we thank you. Everybody in the room, you know, it's amazing to see so many familiar faces, so many people who have made a commitment to be here. Thank you. Sue, if you can take us to the next slide. It's a quote from Clarence Sundrum. We started with a quote from Clarence before the video talking about DSPs. We talk about, if you don't know, Clarence Sundrum was a special advisor on vulnerable persons for the governor, for Governor Cuomo, that guy. And he thinks that the problems in the community signal a profound failure of government to fulfill its responsibility to be a competent funder and regulator. That's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. I think that everyone in this room feels a little bit that way today. And we know that New York is the leader. It has been the leader, and we know it will continue to be the leader. And so days like today, it's rough hearing these stories. It's rough hearing reality and emotion. And I know we heard a lot of emotion here today. And that's the reality that we live in. And that's the reality that most people don't see in the community. And that's why we really wanted to bring that reality to all of you today. So when you do go back to Albany, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about the folks that you heard from today. You're thinking about the folks who visit you in your office. For every speaker here, I can tell you there were probably another 10 speakers that could have told the same story in a different way. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people just in our community who are hanging on and really need help. And we've seen $500 million come out of services in the past 4 years. And the numbers of people are escalating. There are more and more people coming into the system that need the supports. And the money is just draining out. And we gotta turn that around, and I think we can. I think all of us can. And I ask all of you today to think about that. Think about what you can do. Think about the stories that you heard today, the people that you know. Think about that. I'm the closer, so I'm not gonna keep you here for a long time. But I want you to think about it. What have you done? What can you do? There's a family fund. We need action. You know, it all boils down to money, as we all know. We need funding for residential development. We need funding for appropriate day services. Appropriate would be the key word. Not everything is appropriate for everybody. We cannot force square pegs through round holes. We gotta stop doing that, because that's what we're doing. We're regionalizing our rates. But the needs are different. People are different. People who have more intensive needs deserve to get services. People who have lighter touch needs deserve to get services. We can't cannibalize. We can't, you know, turn on one another and say, my kid deserves services more than your kid. And there's enough money, because we're spending money on really stupid, crazy things. And I'm not going to go into detail. I got a list, but I'm not going today. I think you all know. So, no group home construction since 2008, unless you're in an absolute crisis. And believe me, you wait for a long time in a crisis. You got to be in a crisis for at least a year, maybe in a CPAP unit. We have a mom who, I don't think she is here today, I was looking for her. Her son has been in the CPAP unit at ECMC since August 1st. He is stuck. That is wrong. And that's costing a ton of money. And the care is the best they can do, because they're not trained to meet his needs. And this mom is at wit's end. And I think everybody knows, everybody who's connected to this issue has probably heard from her. And if you haven't, I hope you do hear from her. She's a wonderful woman who advocates for her son. And he deserves supports. And he's a tough kid to serve, but he deserves supports. So, respite. The Department of Health is cutting respite. So we don't have construction for group homes, and families are supposed to keep their kids home longer, but we're pulling the service that supports them and enables them to do it. That's wrong. My 15-year-old recognizes how wrong that is. I know everyone in this room recognizes how wrong this is. We can't leave our loved ones with the kid next door, the teenager, you know, grandma. Grandma's struggling when grandma's 75, 80, 85 years old. We need trained respite providers. We need people willing to do this work for not a lot of pay. And frankly, we deserve a heck of a lot more. And we honor the work you do, because you are our lifeline. I cannot stress that enough. You are our lifeline. So, families, get active. I've said it before, you'll hear it from me. I'll say it over and over and over and over. Share your story. Make those calls. Jam those phone lines, you know. Call Governor Cuomo. Send him a love letter. In fact, we have a love letter for him. Be fair to direct care. There are postcards here. It's very easy. Put your name and your address, stamp, put it in the mail. You could write a longer letter, and we would encourage you to do that. But you can do something as simple as this. There's cards on the table. There's cards at the door. Please do that. Our wonderful elected officials, we need action. We need you to help us fight this battle. We need your advice and your guidance. You know the system. We're just a bunch of parents getting through the day. Okay? We need your help. And we need it now. We need it before there's more and more and more kids sitting in CPAP, people getting hurt because they're not appropriately served. So, in closing, thank you everyone for being here again. This is the 6th year. Hopefully you don't need to be here next year.